What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and this video I want to talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 being a sleeping giant. Now, this is a phrase that I've used to describe this game over the last little while, and I want to kind of explain why. Why do I believe this game is going to be so big, and what does that mean, right? Sales and reception, all that jazz. I kind of want to go over just a couple evidence-like pieces first, and then also just kind of personal opinions. So, firstly, I think it's probably best to start with sales, right? You say, okay, well, if the game's going to be so big, what could it sell and what's come before it? Well, you look at Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, right? And this is from, at the time, a pretty small studio, a studio that I believe was formed in 2011, something around there, and it took them, 7 or so years from conception to, actually releasing Kingdom Come. And, it started off pretty okay, especially for a game its size. It grew over the years, and it kind of averaged around 1 million sales a year, right? So you go back to 2022, and they announced that the game reached 5 million units. You go back to February of last year, right, 1 year ago, and it sold 6 million units. Then you go back to November, so just 2 months ago, and the game sold 8 million units. So it's actually sold 2 million units let's just kind of round like up and down. It sold 2 million units just in 2024. Now, this is because of the Switch version. This is because of obviously the second game being announced. I wouldn't be surprised if this game, the first game that is, actually made it to 10 million by the time the second game comes out. Wouldn't doubt it. And, you could look at that and say, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, I think that's actually quite a bit of evidence right there. Like, this is a game, look, there's been games that come out, do really, really well when they first come out, and then, fizzle out, right? This is a game that just over its life has continued to add people, and it's not adding, 10,000 people a year. It's adding 1 million or even 2 million, depending on which year you're talking about, right? It is growing its install base, and just, again, you go from even 2022 to right now, say 3 years, it has gained 3, maybe even 4 million people in the last 3-4 years. So it's going at such a good rate that it just feels like it's building, right? And the thing is, when it comes to, this is more of a personal opinion, I guess, when you look at the first game and you see it, adding up these numbers, you have to say, okay, well, not every single one of these 8-9 million people are going to buy the second game day one, but it should get a much bigger boost than the first game did when it first came out, right? A few days ago, when I made a video on this game, I talked about how I would not be surprised at all if when the game released, this is one of those games that within the first week, they say, hey, it already sold 1 million, or maybe even more, it already sold 2 or 3 million. I really think it's possible. So another thing you could do, obviously, right, is look at the charts that are available. Now, they're not amazing. Obviously, there's no numbers attached to them, but you go on Steam first, and I will say, it's actually lower than I thought it was going to be. However, it actually just went up, so maybe that's the reason why. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is number 48 on the Steam charts as of right now. I mean, that's not, again, as high as I thought it was going to be, but it's literally new. This is the first week of it being on, and I imagine this game is going to take off. You look at other games that are able to be pre-purchase, pre-orders, right? Monster Hunter Wilds, which is number 17. I think that game is going to also be just an absolute titan, but that's been on there for 4 weeks, right? So it's had kind of the benefit of being able to do it. Even Civ 7, which is also actually, see, these games are all kind of big. Kingdom Come might be the smallest of those 3, but even Civ 7, it's been up for 3 weeks. It's now number 9, and that's raised 46 spots. Monster Hunter Wilds raised 33 spots. So, it's interesting actually, because both those games are slightly after Kingdom Come, right? Civ is just a few days after. Monster Hunter is actually at the end of February, but again, I think the benefit for those games is it's just been on Steam earlier, right? It's just been on there longer. I think you give Kingdom Come another week or two, especially the last week or two before it comes out. I probably imagine it's easily top 5, if not even top 3 or top 2. And then, PlayStation's a pretty good one. They do rank them, sort them by best selling. So these are pre-orders and these are best selling. Again, Monster Hunter is 1 and 2, which again, you can kind of see that one coming. Dynasty Warriors, now that's an interesting one. However, Dynasty Warriors comes out in a few days, right? So that one's a mid-January release, hence why I think it makes a lot of sense why that would be there. Then you have Kingdom Come, right? Number 4, and it's actually the gold edition. The $90 comes with all the DLC and all that jazz. So that's number 4. Then again, you go to Civ, Dynasty Warriors. So it's all the games that are coming out extremely soon. And then Kingdom Come, the base version, is there, I think, at number 13. So look, I'm not saying this game is going to be a 15 million, unit selling thing. However, if the first game gets 9 or 10, can the second one match it and maybe get 10, 11, 12 by the end of its run? I do think that's absolutely possible, right? I guess another thing that's more maybe personal opinion is just kind of reception that the game has gotten so far. I mean, trailers, views and stuff are tough to go based off, right? Because some games are just heavily viewable, and then, and actually Kingdom Come is one of those, right? It's a game that's not for everybody, and it's a game that I think a lot of people can very much respect, but maybe can't get into, including even myself up until somewhat recently. So, the views, like, it gets millions, when you look at some of the trailers or some of even the gameplay stuff that IGN has done, gets 500,000-600,000 views. I mean, that's a lot for, again, a game that's probably also still not expensive. But again, you got to take that stuff a little, and I try to as well, right? You got to take it with a grain of salt, just because you never know. I mean, like, like viewers on anything, right? Or even like tweets and likes on tweets. I mean, how many of those people actually go out and support the product? It's probably less than 1%, right? So you do have to think about, I think it's different for like viewing a YouTube trailer, but you do have to think about that. Not everybody that's watching the videos are going to go out to buy the game. But I don't know. I think this game has a lot of potential. I think this will probably also be like a streaming type game. I could see really popping off on like Twitch of just a lot of viewership, because again, I think it's a game that, the dedicated group is going to get into, and I think that dedicated group has actually grown exponentially, which is nuts and actually really cool to see. But then also, again, it's not going to be a game that everybody plays, but people seem to be really interested in it, right? So it's like, okay, well, how many viewership, that kind of stuff, that might not help the game, I guess, at the end of the day, but people will be talking about it. I guess the one thing to kind of concern yourself about, if you're worried about like the success, it's the first game of February, okay? But at the same time, I mentioned all those other games. Civilization 7 is right after it, right? You have Assassin's Creed, which is definitely in an interesting position of its own, but that's right after, right? I think that's 11 days after it. Avowed is 3 days after that. So, February is the month of very long RPGs. So Kingdom Come, then you have like a week and a half, then you have Assassin's Creed and Avowed. You actually have Like a Dragon, which I'm really excited for. Monster Hunter is a gigantic, right? You're going to spend your entire life playing that game. It's a month of games that the average length are freaking like 50 plus hours. So that'll be interesting. But honestly, I think Kingdom Come can kind of separate itself. Number one, because it comes out first. I think actually Assassin's Creed and Avowed, maybe even Like a Dragon, they're the tricky ones because they're like sandwiched in. Monster Hunter's going to do great. I think Kingdom Come's going to do great. Those three are kind of just in a tough spot. But also, it's probably the most different, I would say. I mean, like, look, they're all unique, I guess, in their own way. But Kingdom Come leans so much into that accuracy and just feeling and being different, in that way. I think that's going to give it an advantage just to kind of stand out, right? So I don't know. We'll see at the end of the day. But I've said for a while, you look at even the scores of the first game, not high. In fact, pretty low, lower than you might remember them being. I think the second game, I guess actually that's the last part that maybe we would throw in here. Why could it also be a sleeping giant just kind of waiting to awaken? Well, the first thing you're probably going to get of this game is the review scores. And, we've talked about it before. For me, doesn't mean too much. But yeah, you look at the scores of the first game. They're not amazing. They had the confidence to send out codes a month early for this game. Now, again, it might not mean anything, but and actually, we don't even know when the review embargo lifts, so we could actually see the scores. But if the scores come out a week before and people were able to play, freaking 70, 80, 90 hours, and they're giving this thing 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, like that could just be the start. And that's kind of how I would look at it, right? The review scores are going to be kind of just the floodgates opening, right? You see, it's got an 87 on Metacritic, and then all of a sudden, okay, now it's going to sell all this. I'm not saying they like literally one affects the other, one's going to lead the other to happen. Probably not, actually, but I think they are both going to happen just kind of naturally on their own. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.